Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Outcomes Rocket. So excited that you tuned in to another episode. We are in a changing world, and thankfully with us today is Justin Liu. He's the CEO of Charta Health, helping us usher what is all things AI and the chart into healthcare. So get ready for some jam-packed conversation here, folks. Justin, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
So, Justin, you're doing some incredible things, man. Just to kind of level set, tell the people about you, your company, and what inspired your work in healthcare.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, my background is, I think, really on the engineering and technology side. I was like a computer science study, a Bay Area kid. I was at Google for a couple of years, been doing startups for a while. And Charta, really for both me and my co-founders, actually, our first time venturing into healthcare. So the whole space is actually quite new for us. And honestly, I think when my co-founder and I started the company a couple of years ago, at the beginning, we had no idea, I think, like what kind of company we really wanted to build, and really took our time, I think, to really try and learn a little bit more about the world and understand the space. And I think ultimately, at the time, I think AI was just becoming really popular. And just like a couple months after ChatGPT was released, I think that we started the company. And so we were really looking for a place where we thought this new wave of AI could make a really, really big difference, and we could actually solve a really big problem that we could, of course, it's our first time really like starting a company and working on this for a long time. We're hoping we could find something to work on for, the next decade or more of our lives. And so, so it only took us a couple of months to really find our way to fall in love with healthcare as a space. Still had no idea what we were going to build inside healthcare, and then spent another year, almost year and a half, trying almost every single AI kind of idea in healthcare in the world. So super organic, I think, process into finding the space and then finding our idea within healthcare.
Super cool, man. And a lot of these things are iterative, but you ultimately landed on what you guys are doing today. So talk to us about Charta Health. What does your company do, and how are you guys adding value in the healthcare ecosystem?
Yeah, so on a high level, really, Charta reviews medical records with AI. And that's really at a high level, I think, what the company does, but doesn't necessarily speak to the value propositions of like why you might be reviewing a medical record, what the purpose of it is for. And the reality of it actually is every single healthcare provider has a lot of teams reviewing medical records. Almost every single kind of back office operation in all of healthcare, even, many front office clinical operations, they all start with the same thing. It starts with pulling up an individual medical record, for a patient. That's really the lifeblood of all of healthcare, and looking for some kind of insight or information inside that medical record. And what Charta does is it tries to solve this fundamentally, what we believe is a really, really inefficient process. These medical records by nature are a lot of natural language, free text, really similar to what you and most others have seen in your kind of after visit summaries. It's exactly what a medical record looks like. A lot of natural free language text. Mm-hmm. Historically, technology has been very kind of unintelligent, unable to really process information. It's not kind of like a structured number. And so the only way that healthcare has been able to process this historically is by having a human pull up an individual medical record and review that medical record for some particular set of criteria, whether it's clinical criteria to make sure you follow the standard of care and got the right medications, or, maybe some compliance checks, some regulatory checks to make sure they followed the rules, and could be billing to make sure that, you billed for all the services that were performed inside this record. It all starts with pulling up an individual medical record. So that's what Charta really does, is it tries to put all of these kind of different opportunities and use cases onto a single platform where we have AI review 100% of records, which is really something that's not really been possible before, until AI has been able to process this more intelligently.
Totally, man. Yeah, and it is the lifeblood. The record is the lifeblood, as you called it, for a lot of healthcare transactions, interactions, diagnosis, next steps. And so talk to us about what you guys do different or better than what's already out there outside of the human element, because we know that's not efficient. That's too slow. We don't have enough people. Talk to us about the AI side of things and other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a lot of the unlock that you get from working with an AI company like Charta is really, if you think deeply about the unit economics of what it costs to review a medical record today. When you use AI to review it like ours, first of all, it costs anywhere from like hundreds of thousands of times cheaper than a human to review this. But second, and oftentimes more importantly, it's much more scalable. It can be done in real time. And so when you think about the possibilities unlocks, there's really a whole new suite of capabilities. Like, for example, we can do some actually very simple concepts, such as reviewing a medical record before it goes out to an insurance company for payment, just to look for a potential revenue opportunity, which not every record may have, but it's so cheap to look through, we'll look through 100% of them. And if we find something, we can, of course, update that record to make sure that the claim reflects, all of the services that were billed. And that very, it's a rather simple concept nets for the providers that we work with about a 10 to 15% increase in revenue, which is absolutely kind of like business changing for many of the clinics that we work with that are barely above water, kind of on these, half or 1 point margins. Or on the clinical side, for example, really basic questions that, a chief medical officer or any doctor might have, maybe a patient has, are my doctors performing the right care? Are they prescribing me even the right medications? Am I getting the right dosages, which you hope are right? And you assume in almost any other industry are really basic questions you'd be able to get right. In healthcare, are actually nearly impossible because you can only randomly sample typically less than 1% of the records that are actually generated. And so by using AI, you can all of a sudden have AI look through all these records and find all of these insights by asking a few questions. And so I think that's really the leverage that you get by working with, a platform like Charta's. And then I think on top of that, what's really nice about working with a partner like Charta is, this obviously can make it hard for us to take on a lot of clients. But one of the things that we do is we take on generally very few clients. And for the ones that we do get to partner with, we dedicate a tremendous amount of resources to build a lot of kind of like personalized custom workflows, review criteria to ensure that everybody that we work with gets a really white-gloved experience, to make sure that all the teams that are reviewing medical records can all do it on a single place. They can all work together seamlessly. And we kind of dedicate a team of AI researchers and engineers to work with healthcare providers for an indefinite period of time. And so just approach-wise, I think also what you're getting when you work with a company like ours is a much more dedicated experience rather than kind of a more out-of-the-box software solution that can solve your problems.
Got it. No, that's super interesting. Not cookie cutter. It's custom. It's scalable. And there's a lot of different ways you could approach the market. It sounds like you guys have gone the provider route, but it also sounds like there's capabilities to potentially unlock the platform for all of the vendors trying to do something with charts. Do you guys have a partner ecosystem? Is that what you do? Or do you work mainly directly to provider?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the end kind of like value that we generate for is generally for providers. Now, I think like there's other ways we can distribute that technology. For example, like we do partner with other technology vendors. There's other AI scribes, for example, very popular these days, AI kind of note takers for the medical world.
Yeah.
Super common. There's, of course, the electronic health record system themselves, the store of record, they obviously also have a huge base of clients, and they're always looking to partner with a lot of AI vendors out there to make their services better for their end users. And so I think there are other channels by which I think we distribute and this technology and try to get access to providers. But ultimately, because we provide such a white glove service, we do end up having to partner directly with providers, because ultimately, like, this isn't something, again, that you can like kind of turn on as a feature inside your EHR or some other technology you're already using. We do build it extremely custom for every provider we work with, as I mentioned. And so, yeah, it does require us to kind of partner pretty closely with everybody we work with.
Great to know, man. And then for everybody listening that wants to know, am I the right fit or am I not the right fit? What provider segment are you focused on? Are you working with the $1 billion plus large IDNs, or are you working more with the ambulatory practices, not affiliated physician offices?
That's a great question. Well, our primary focus right now is working with kind of these really, really high volume, low reimbursement outpatient specialties. So some of the ones you alluded to, I think, if you think of you seeing a lot of patients, but each visit is not necessarily worth very much, those would potentially make a really, really good partner for us. And so if you think about it, those could be places like primary care, urgent care, behavioral health. See a lot of patients, but on the other side of things, the ones we tend to partner less with are surgery specialties, for example, where you only see a few patients, but each one's worth a lot. Of course, the leverage that you really get from working with AI is that we can review thousands of times more records and do it faster. And so, the more medical records you frankly have, the easier it is to partner together. So yeah, so those tend to be the groups that we work with. We work less directly with hospitals, for example, that have like a facility and a building, again, are more kind of places like higher individual reimbursement. It's really the large, high volume, seeing a lot of patients that we can do the best work with.
Well, if that's you, people, this is an opportunity. We like to keep it crisp and clear because you listen, you can't do it on your own. Primary care is tough. And if you're in that business, you know it's tough, whether you're private equity or in it for yourself. There's opportunities to get more efficient. So definitely let's take a note from Justin Liu here today on the custom opportunities that he and his team are offering us. What's one trend that you're seeing that you feel is going to change the game in healthcare, Justin?
Oh, that's a good question. Obviously, I feel that AI is, obviously generally coming for the space for not just healthcare, but for a lot of spaces. I think to me, the real distinction that I think we'll see more of over the next year or two is really about which AI companies actually create value and survive and end up, not just being all the hype, but actually create real value for whoever it is that you're working with inside healthcare. So to me, I think the really important trend that we should pay attention to is trying to figure out kind of which AI companies can generate real value that is measurable and practical and attributable, I think importantly to the work that you're doing. So whether it's like an AI scribe, as we've seen, that can, directly save doctors time and help them write notes, or companies like ours that try and directly help by reviewing more medical records and can quantify that somehow in hours saved or revenue generated. I think this is an important kind of insight to look into, especially as, the wave of AI kind of comes over and, so many different ideas pop up for ways that AI can help. Ultimately, what we've seen at least is healthcare providers are frankly not that interested in AI necessarily as a concept. They're interested in the value that AI may or may not be able to create. So we talked about this a lot. People really want services and value. They don't really care about technology or AI. And so, I think we'll really see over the next couple of years which companies are able to play on the actual value creation side.
Let's see what happens, Justin. I mean, you think there's a bubble? There's an AI bubble forming here that's going to pop?
Me and everybody else, we're all wondering the same thing. I actually think that there's just such a tremendous amount of value creation that we see, and from the AI tools that we buy and use. I find it hard to believe that there will be kind of a bubble popping of sorts. But I do think that, again, to a previous point that I was sharing, I do think that eventually things will plateau to a level where we'll really start to see which companies are actually creating value. The scariest companies I would think about are the ones that have really fast adoption. If you can grow from zero to hundreds of billions of dollars within a year or two, I would at least be scared because, as quickly as you can capture that market, it means somebody else could take it from you. So
This is true.
those are the ones that I'm interested in seeing if they'll pop or not.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. It's good to observe. It's good to play in the game. Ultimately, as long as we're adding value, I think we'll end up ahead. Justin, really appreciate you jumping on the podcast with us today. If people want to learn more about you, your company, Charta Health, where can they reach out? And then the last thing before I forget, a closing thought you want to leave everyone with.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, I'll start in reverse then. I'll leave with something more insightful.
Yeah.
If you want to reach me, or the company, obviously, you can go through our website. I think, chartahealth.com, many different ways you can contact us. You can always find me directly through LinkedIn. You can find my profile, or my email is just my first name at our company URL. So finding, I think, reaching me is certainly the easy side. Interesting insight. Let's see. One thing I would really pay attention to as we use AI to come in and partner inside the healthcare ecosystem is you should pay really close attention to kind of who the people are that we are actually working with and understanding deeply the work that they do. One of the things that has been really new for, my co-founder and I coming into the space, especially as healthcare kind of outsiders coming in and really learning healthcare for the first time, is like the deep appreciation, I think, for the work that happens in healthcare and how deep the industry can be and how nuanced the workflows can be, and the different incentive structures that are aligned and understanding the industry. These are all, I think, really important nuances that especially builders like ourselves coming from outside the space really tend to overlook. That's the reason why, for example, I didn't mention this earlier, but me and my co-founder both have our medical coding certifications, for example. We actually require our AI researchers engineers who work on billing and coding to also get professionally certified as medical coders. Our fundamental belief here is that if you're going to train AI to do any work, that you have to first be qualified as human to do so, because it's not going to be any better than you can do that work, especially as folks evaluate different AI solutions in this space. I do think it's really important to pay close attention to the people behind the AI and exactly who you're working with. It's only going to be as good as they are. So, I talk to them directly and see if they really deeply understand whatever problems you're trying to solve. Those, I think, will really help stand out and, focus on, again, value creation and not just a cool piece of technology.
Yeah, that's a great call out, Justin. You know, the AI will do what you train it to. And if you don't know it, good luck. Uh, so, so yeah, that's awesome, man. Good way to close us out. You guys are not alone. There's opportunities to scale your operations. There's opportunities to increase the value you add to your patient visits, to the care that you deliver to your patients, and to your bottom line. And that's why we have Justin Liu, CEO of Charta Health, with us today to talk to us about what they're doing on the chart front and all its applications. So check out the show notes. You'll see how to get in touch with him and the team at Charta Health. And make sure you take action, because that's how we make a difference. And Justin, really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.